there, football fans. Welcome back to Alumni Game, the show where three Gamecocks dive into Carolina football, the SEC, NCAA, some NFL, everything that goes with all that on the gridiron. We're bringing you all the frosty, frozen, snowed-in treats you can handle to keep you coming back for more. I'm your host, Mike Ritchie, class of '06. With me are my cool as ice co-hosts, Sam Niedermeyer, class of '06, and John Buster Clarkson, class of '02. That's right, Buster is back,
He's
and he's
back.
got something to say.
I'm back.
So let's give
I'm
him
back.
the mic here.
Guys, we dealt with snowpocalypse. All 2 to 3, maybe 4 inches of snowpocalypse. Yes, I know you were laughing at me, you northern Yankee guys, but down here, that is enough to shut down a city. I missed the show last week because we had a guy that doesn't know how to drive in the snow and ice. Probably lost control and hit a power line, knocked my power out, couldn't get on. So, but I'm here, I'm back, and I didn't forget, I am wearing my orange.
Nice.
This is the only orange that I own, and this is only because it is a hunting cap. So you're supposed to have some orange on there to be visible.
Oh, so you don't get Dick Cheney'd or whatever, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is my orange. It doesn't feel good. It itches. I'm nauseous. But you know what? It's fine. It's fine. I'm here.
You ready to go hunting?
I'm ready to go hunting for some great, unbiased, and reasonable takes. So let's get this thing going.
All right. So I'll take the mic back here. We got a good one this week. Obviously, we got the crew back. We'll go ahead and recap some of those NFL conference ships, which were very nice, setting up the Super Bowl, which we will preview. We'll get into the last two bowls, Senior Bowl and Shrine Bowl, with some Gamecocks in the mix there. We'll do a little bit of a midseason review of the Lady Gamecocks basketball, who were killing it. And then we'll get into our 3-down segment and preview a little bit of next week. So don't forget to like, subscribe on YouTube if you like what you're hearing. Comment, let us know what you want to hear about. If there is not a segment that you would like, tell us. We want to know. And if we get something wrong, tell us that too. We're on YouTube, Instagram, and then a few of us are on X as well if you want to follow us there. So you can get all the new content, shorter videos, some other stuff we put up there. Otherwise, bundle up, y'all. And let's get started with this week's episode of Alumni.
Good.
Cox.
Good.
Cox.
All right, y'all. So we had much more NFL action this past weekend with these conference ships. We obviously only 2 games, but still pretty monumental games. And guess what? Your boy got everything right. I'm not too proud of that. But KC and Philly did their thing. The Eagles win big over the Commies, 55-23. Little more than it looks there. The Commanders were in it for a while, and I thought they played really well. They'll definitely be back. And the Chiefs still doing their thing. They win in a bit of a squeaker, 32-29 over the Bills. And since it was just Sam and I last week picking, and we did have a little wager, I see where my winnings are sitting under Sam's nose. How you doing, buddy?
It is the first time I've had a mustache in quite some time, and as you can tell, I still have not grown up since my prepubescent days of doing a mustache and facial hair.
Come on, get nice and close. Let us see that thing. Put the chin up a little bit.
That's a little. Do not go anywhere near the children's playground.
Yeah, I was getting some weird looks from a couple moms and their kids. They kind of did one of those numbers when you're walking down the street and they kind of pull the kid away. You know, like, hey, get away. One of those numbers.
Well, with the bet, you do not have to keep it, so
I fully intend that this will be the last time that I'll have a mustache. That's for sure. And I was so confident that the Chiefs were going to win that I had the mustache on my face type of bet right there, and I was wrong. And Josh Allen, man, like I don't know if you guys saw him at the end of the game, but he just looked dejected, sit on the sideline after the Chiefs had converted that first down. Down near the goal line to kind of clinch it there, but he just looked like, man, and I kind of I felt for him because I really like Josh Allen, I really like where they were at, but they just didn't have the same type of rhythm offensively that they did in the regular season, and kudos Spagnoli, right? Like he really put together a great game plan. Limited
Chiefs
some of the deep
defensive
throws.
coordinator.
I think they only gave up like 2 big throws throughout the entire game. The rest was was really like locked down, just a really, really great defensive game plan. And I'm starting to hate the Chiefs.
Yeah, well, dejected is a good word, right? I mean, on some of his little scrum plays, like tush push stuff, looked very dejected. Even if he got it across on a first down, like he would almost fumble. And I gotta be honest, it felt like both teams are a little sort of slapdash with their wide receivers. They're making it work, but when Mac Hollins has to do most of the work, and he's like your fourth wide receiver, and that rookie hasn't stepped up, and Amari Cooper's not doing anything, and the tight ends are dropping balls. Like it's tough. James Cook can't be the only other one. And in that game, it felt like it was like Josh Allen and James Cook, and there wasn't a lot else. You know,
That's a good point. He's had Stephon Diggs the last few years. So they've had this like really top tier wide receiver they can throw to. I know they traded for Amari Cooper halfway through the year, but you really kind of look at the Bills' offense over the last 4 or 5 years as being leaned upon by Josh Allen running and Josh Allen throwing to a stud wideout. And you didn't really have that stud wideout. I understand Amari Cooper is Amari Cooper, but he's not quite on that level that he used to be on.
Yeah, I don't know what
side,
to say. Like, did he not get the scheme, or was it a weird move for him going there? I don't know, but he just fell off a cliff.
He's a worker, but sometimes, guys, like, it's just the game goes. I mean, he's getting up there in age a little bit, right? Like, he's about 30, 31. I'm not saying that's old, but for a wide receiver position at his skill level, wide receivers and running backs don't last long in the league. I mean, it's not like
I hear you. It's not old, but 30 is an age. Yeah.
No, I get you.
And to your point, I'm pretty sure Diggs is a free agent now, so we'll see what happens there if they want to bring him back. Or I mean,
it's interesting when you talk about it too with the Chiefs, because you're right. There's not really a premier wide receiver on that side, but Andy Reid's been doing this for years. Well, he'll call a game plan and have 4, 5, 6 different weapons, and there's no leading receiver other than like Travis Kelce with like 5 catches for 55 yards, and somehow Mahomes throws for 300 yards. You got like 4 or 5 receivers that are catching balls 4 or 5. I mean, Juju had a couple great catches there in the game, and
that just like really surprised me, because when Juju was on my Patriots, everyone said his knees were going to explode, and that's how he couldn't do it. So they were wrong, and he was doing it the other day. But I think the real surprise, the real flash for me is Xavier Worthy out of Texas. I mean, I did not expect that kid to be their number one or act like a number one. I did not expect him to get peppered. I expected him to get a couple of long balls, kind of like Mac Hollins did for the Bills, a couple of where you can go up and grab it. But if he's got to operate as the number one in the Super Bowl, I don't know, and next year too, they got to get another guy up there. I mean, they did in the offseason, right? They've got Hollywood, and they obviously Rashee Rice was awesome. He'll come back, so maybe they'll be fine next year if everyone's healthy. Rashee Rice going down, I think that was a big one for them, why they had to go out and acquire more. But we're doing honestly, a lot of talking here. What do you want to say about the Bills here, Buster?
My thing is like, with the Chiefs Bills, the two things that stand out, and it is related to wide receiver. This is that the fact that, like you guys said, Mac Hollins was the deep threat for the Bills, and the
man who's won with the earth, right?
Exactly. And Shakir, like those two guys, like do we look back, hindsight 2020, do we look back and say maybe the Amari Cooper trade was not a good idea? Like, I thought it was going to be good at the time, getting him away from a Browns organization that was in shambles, fresh start. He has the talent. He has the ability. We saw that from back.
Maybe the best quarterback he's played with too. If
yeah,
you really look at it.
And that's the thing is, but it never really panned out. Coleman, the rookie, we like his size, but it just, the fact that the Bills passed on Worthy and got Coleman says a lot about maybe just bad decisions on the Bills' part. On the flip side,
maybe. Man, I mean, hold up, Buster. Right? It takes 3 years. I mean,
think about this.
3 years from a draft. We don't know yet. Coleman could blow up next year.
Oh, he could. But if you're looking at wide receivers in the rookie year, which one of those two is going to the Super Bowl? And which one of those two produced enough for his team to go to the Super Bowl? That would be Worthy, not Coleman. So that's what we're basing on now. Yeah. Now, does that mean that, on down the road, one's going to be better than the other? We're not talking about that now. We have to wait 5 years down the road before we make that decision. But right now, the Bills passed up Worthy to get Coleman. And if you're looking at the sample size now, one receiver did what he needed to do to get his team into the playoffs.
Yeah,
and
the greater sign is towards Worthy. Yeah, I mean, he showed maturity. Maybe has a better quarterback with an arm. Tough to debate who has a better arm, Josh
Yeah,
Allen or
it's
Patrick
just
Mahomes.
to
Patrick
me,
Mahomes is more experienced, at least.
Mahomes kind of reminds me, and maybe you can agree to disagree or disagree to agree, Mikey, but it kind of reminds me of Tom Brady when he was winning Super Bowls without top flight receivers. Like in those early years, Mahomes had Tyreek Hill, and when he left to go to Miami, they're like, "Oh, he's not going to win without Tyreek Hill," and he won. And then Rasheed Rice goes down. They're like, "Oh, he's not going to win with."
No, I'll allow it. I'll allow it. I'll rule
So
on that. I'll
that's
allow it. But I'll just say
to
the
me, the
wrinkles.
key of the game was that Mahomes had his guys step up that weren't household names, that weren't Travis Kelce. Again, Travis Kelce did not have that production in that
And
AFC
don't
Championship.
expect him to going forward.
Yeah,
he can catch,
and
but
that's
he'll
fine.
go down. Yeah,
because apparently Mahomes could still make things happen with or without the refs. And again, that's debatable. I'm just putting that out in the zeitgeist. But whatever you want to say about the refs and all that stuff, Mahomes was able to produce an offense without that signature wide receiver, with wide receivers that was either a rookie, a throwaway from the Pittsburgh Steelers,
the scrap
Juju, that sort of thing. And
coming back from injury, Marquise Brown. Yeah.
So,
No, I'm with you. I'll just say this. The big wrinkle that gives me a big sort of twitchy eye with that is the way that Mahomes runs the ball now with the way the rules are. That was never the way for Tom Brady. Tom Brady could not run towards the sideline, sort of hold the ball out, fake like he's going to go down, whatever. That shit that Mahomes does is tough. No one else in the league is doing it. Sam and I talked a little bit about this last week. Is it a cheat code? I don't think so, but it's getting there, and it's impossible for defenses, right? Because if they hit him, they're gonna get penalized and fined. If he starts to go down and they hit him, they're gonna get penalized and fined. If they don't, he's gonna get a first down. I mean, he might go out of bounds, he might not, he might run, he might not. It's too cute. It's very cute.
But the fact that
it's winning. But it's winning.
Back in the day, everyone could say that Tom Brady, anytime he got hit, was getting a flag. Him and Peyton Manning.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
That's true. That knee rule. You're very right, Sam. Because if you remember, Carson Palmer, the year before Tom Brady got his knee hit, he got the same hit, and you would know this, obviously being a Steelers fan.
I remember.
And they did not call that, and a lot of people that I talked to.
Well, it wasn't a penalty at the time.
It wasn't. But a lot of people that talk about that, if that hit does not happen on Carson Palmer, maybe the Bengals win the Super Bowl that year. Now,
all I'm saying is,
big if.
We can make all this about what Mahomes does from a running capability and a passing capability. The fact of the matter is, the game plan that Andy Reid and Steve Spags can come up with, offensively and defensively, has put the Chiefs back into the Super Bowl.
And they're going for 3, which you have to respect. You have to respect.
Yeah. So, I look at it like this. I think the Bills need a couple more pieces. I love Josh Allen, like you said, Sammy. Like, I really think the Bills can have a chance, but they need one other piece. And I'm not sold on their defense, but I don't know. Maybe that's just me looking.
Yeah, Von Miller's getting older.
So, but I'm going to do a tequila shot since I did bet the Bills and they lost.
Okay, so you just want a drink. There you
go. The Chiefs do remind me a lot of, like, not necessarily the Joe Montana 49ers, but more like the Steve Young 49ers.
Ooh,
Steve Young was never like kind of, and it's funny because Andy Reid was on that staff, right? And Steve Young was never like the fastest guy in the field, but he was like kind of shifty, and he reminds me of Mahomes. Really reminds me a lot of him. You don't really see him throwing the deep ball a whole lot. He's got a lot of crossing routes, a lot of timing patterns. I think I'm kind of sick of them winning, but man, Andy Reid and Mahomes are looking out like absolute pure magic for the NFL.
Sam, that's a diamond. That's so good. I would not have remembered that Andy Reid was on that staff, and I'm picturing the way that Young would sort of whip around and sort of run around and fling the ball around. Looked a little Josh Allen.
He was never the fastest. He was never the fastest.
No,
like Mahomes isn't either.
He got very concussed as well.
Yeah.
I remember staying up late Sunday nights, like not doing my homework, watching Steve Young do his thing and being fine with it and be like, I don't care. I'm going to wake up early in the morning, do my homework. He was so much fun to watch. But that's a deep cut. That's very on point. I'm totally with that. So not to throw shade, there was another game, the Eagles and Commanders. Eagles really doing their thing. I mean, I'm in New York, and I'm going to say it, Giants fans, I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. It's almost too much to bear. This
It
like
really is, man. It
this cross
really
to
is.
carry around. It's like, how could this be possible that he is 1 million times better than he was? But I gotta point to that Philly line. I gotta point to, Hurts being strong back there and also being a running type quarterback. They are still able to execute that tush push, even with him a little banged up. He just sort of ripped that brace off. And it kind of feels like if the Chiefs aren't careful, Saquon will just run all over them, and that'll be the end of it. So Andy Reid is game planning for that, and specifically anything they can do to get in Saquon's head, to slow him, to try to stop him, to do anything to get him out of bounds. But it's been tough to watch. I'm not gonna lie, from a Giants fan's perspective.
Dude, I mean, if I was a Giants fan, I would definitely riot, pitchfork, march to the Giants facility and just like, guys, I can't believe you did this. Like this, like Saquon, he took the very first play of the game. He took the handoff and went to the house and just showed incredible vision. He's got explosiveness. He's got twitch. He's got enough speed to break away. Like again, we're not asking him to be a sub 4.3 type of guy, but like
Right.
he has the complete package, and he's finally on a team that, like you said, has a good offensive line, has a great quarterback, has a great OC, has great supporting characters. Because again, I think one of the biggest strengths of a good run game is that downfield threat with either Devonta or AJ. So, like, to me, you got a good complete package on offense.
Yeah.
And I do like the defense, especially the D line for the Eagles. So the Chiefs do have a legit threat to take them down, to keep them from winning.
No, I would go even deeper, Buster. I would say of the supporting characters, I feel like that's where their bread and butter is. Like Gainwell can come in and do his thing, and Saquon does not have to be in there every down. That keeps him a little fresh. And they kept him real fresh in that game. I mean, early he had 3 touches for 60 yards, and they were resting him from 3 touches, but it was the 60 yards, right?
Exactly.
And Gainwell's been nothing but a workhorse for them out of the backfield. And
heck, I even like the fact that we haven't even mentioned Dallas Goedert. I mean, he's just
then after Goddard, they got tight ends after Goddard too that are doing good stuff.
One of the things that we didn't really see a whole lot of Saquon in New York too, and you guys hit the nail on the head with them. And sorry to rub the salt in the wound for all those Giants fans, but Saquon was actually a pretty big threat to receive the ball. He still is. But what we're seeing in Philadelphia is because they had Devontae and AJ out there on the sides and Dallas Goedert catching passes, Saquon's turned into a very serviceable pass running back, or pass blocking running back as well too. He gets
dude,
you got to protect Hurts.
Very underrated. You never saw that in New York because he was the guy that was catching the pass. It was either him or enter wide receiver 1 here, whether it be Odell or I don't think he wasn't there with Neighbors, but like some of the other
Neighbors
guys.
wasn't there yet. Yeah.
He was always like the number 1 pass. He was always the check down guy, so he's catching like 80, 90 balls a season. He's not gonna do that in Philly because he's such a good pass blocker.
Yeah, and he doesn't.
Dude, I love the fact that you say that, Sam. Like, and I can't remember when it was, but they showed the replay where there was a blitz coming up the middle, unblocked, and Saquon went in there and
stuck his nose in.
And not only was able to block the guy, but like pancake the guy. Yeah. And Jalen was able to get the pass off and get a critical 3rd down conversion. And so, I love the fact that like we don't always have to talk about Saquon being a good running back. We can talk about him being a great pass blocker as well.
All right, so we can talk about Saquon forever. We won't. And we will preview this Super Bowl in a moment, and we will probably pick it next week. But in the meantime, a quick little debate we wanted to have here on Alumni Game is a little bit about college football playoff versus NFL playoff. Now, I'm going to start, but I would kind of say that just from an entertainment standpoint, from the X's and O's, from what we saw, and obviously what we're all about. I kind of preferred the college football playoff this year to the NFL playoff. I like the format. I realized the second round was a bit of a blip, but I think that will fix itself going into this year, into 2025. Now that teams know what the playoff is, they know they have that bye and how they can deal with it, and they see the way the other teams tripped up this year. I don't know, guys. What do you think? Who agrees with me or disagrees with me here?
I completely disagree. You
Yeah,
need
you're going
evidence-based
NFL.
research. Buddy, again, I enjoyed the storylines with the likes of Notre Dame. I enjoyed the storylines of your top four teams getting knocked out.
Sure.
We could talk about rest over rust with that first round bye in college football playoffs. But those are storylines. That doesn't change the fact that for an entertainment value, if you're having the Bills play the Ravens, and then the Bills then playing the Chiefs, and these are the Titans of the AFC, and the games were incredible. You have the premier elite running backs of Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry, and premier elite quarterbacks of Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, and then all of a sudden you have this rookie Jaden Daniels coming out of nowhere and sending the Washington Commanders, a wild card team, all the way to the NFC Championship.
I get that.
Not only those are stories, that's
counter.
still entertaining.
Let me counter. You're right. Bills, Ravens, heavyweights. Ohio State, Michigan playing each other going into the college football playoff. One of the biggest rivalries in all of sports, one of the biggest games in the college football landscape. Ohio State loses, then goes on a heater to win the national championship, beating SEC teams. SEC teams going down along the way, right? Georgia's quarterback goes down, ends up transferring, all this other stuff. All the top seeds go down, sort of, in the second round. And then Ohio State uses that Michigan win to get to Notre Dame. Notre Dame hasn't been there in a fortnight or 12. And they end up going down to Ohio State. Like, I hear you, but I think a lot of what you said is also there in college football. Now, I think it was more confusing in college football because of the realignments, because of the transfers, because of the new format. We trust this NFL format. The only changes with the NFL, I would say, were just when they play the games, right? Like, we got those Christmas Day games, which felt like a bit of an invasion on Christmas, but what are you going to do? I actually didn't watch those games on Christmas. I watched highlights. I preferred to spend the day with my family. But I hear you, Buster. I hear you. It probably does edge just a little, especially with the premier matchups and this Cinderella Washington. But look at what we end up with. We end up with Casey there for the third year. And Philly, if they're back for the second time in 3 years, 4 years.
Well, yes. Does America want this Super Bowl between the Eagles and the Chiefs? Or are they tired of seeing the Chiefs constantly in the Super Bowl? I can make an argument that is true. But Sam, you have to help me out here. Bills, Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, Commanders. You have the NFL is far more interesting. Like, give me Bills and Chiefs every year for the AFC Championship, and I'm going to be thoroughly entertained. It's the gladiators. We're walking into the Coliseum, watching the Titans of the gladiators of the Titans fighting back and forth, and it's a knockdown, drag out fight.
That's why you lift all those weights.
On.
Playoffs.
So am I the final arbiter here? Am I deciding?
I guess
you
got to split it. Look,
Listen,
I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying, what do I prefer? I like the new format.
I
thought it was exciting.
Not right. That means he's wrong.
And he's kind of grandstanding. Mike's kind of grandstanding here a little bit. I don't know if I can take that. Unfortunately, Buster, I'm going to take Mike's side. I think the college playoffs were a lot better, so much better. Look, you did have Bills Chiefs. That was a special game. Obviously, what the Commanders did was really fun too. The Manders, the commies, but like most of the games were terrible. Like, they were just not fun to watch. Even my Steelers, like, that game was pretty ugly.
Yeah, you left out some games, Buster.
There was some snoozers in the that Rams Vikings game was really bad to watch too. Like, there was a lot that
Vikings were so bad,
not really fun to watch. And I don't know if it's just because like there's like more percentage of the teams go into the NFL playoffs versus like the college football playoffs, right? Like only like 9% or something of FBS teams get in. Now, granted, the difference between number 1 and number 12 in college is much bigger than 1 and 12 in the NFL. I see that, but I mean, there was just big play after big play, big stop after big stop with some big story franchises like Notre Dame, Ohio State. I know no one wants to see Philadelphia, Kansas City. I, for one, do not want to see that. I didn't want to see Ohio State, Notre Dame, and that game ended up being amazing. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
I think that this year was the college football playoffs just for the simple fact that it just had some better games and some bigger moments. Especially remember how it started with that big 98-yard run by the Notre Dame running back?
Yeah.
Like that's how the playoffs. That's how the college football playoffs started. You're like, oh,
The only
okay,
other
this
piece
is
of the
kind of dope.
puzzle that I'd throw in that doesn't favor any of us here in terms of this argument, but because we don't have the numbers, is like, what did the college football playoff actually do to the NFL's numbers, right? What were the actual metrics for, Nielsen ratings or whatever for the playoff as opposed to the NFL? Now, I know I saw ratings for the Christmas Day games, and there were some of the highest watched games. Okay. But I would say that the college football playoff unequivocally probably stole some eyeballs, right, from the NFL.
Yeah.
And that's going to go on every year. And that's why I thought this debate was necessary, especially for us, because this is something we can debate every year if we want, annually. And it could go back and forth. The only big difference is if college football keeps changing, more conference realignment, more transfers, more changes to the playoff, it's harder and harder because it's not apples to apples, right?
I mean, I'm fine debating this every year because it does. I think it will change every year depending on who gets in. And again, we are. The issue is we're all entertained by football. So like that's the hard part is like we'll never say, hey, this is a bad football game. I'm not going to watch it anymore. No, we're going to watch it.
I mean, Sam said it, but
I mean, buddy, but you still tuned in. I'm sorry, like
I'm
still
football
gonna
to
tune in.
me.
Yeah,
Football
even
is
if it's a shit
football
show,
is
you're gonna watch
fishing.
it. Yeah,
A bad day of watching football is still a better day than like going to work. So I'm never going to complain about like watching football.
Well, that being said,
I'll take this every year.
Yeah. That being said, I'm going to give you the benefit for now, Buster, and I'll anoint you a potential winner of this argument only because we still have the Super Bowl to play. We have the entire college football playoff.
I thought I was the arbiter. What?
Well, I'm seeding a little because we're doing it a tidge early, right? Like technically we saw the whole playoff and the championship, and that's done. But here we've seen the playoffs, but we haven't seen the championship yet. So I'll say there's probably one more big piece, obviously, of that. If the Super Bowl goes into overtime and it comes down to us, I still remember the best finish for me in a Super Bowl was not a Patriots finish. It was Rams Titans, where the Titans lost that Super Bowl by 1 yard. If something like that would have happened, and this Super Bowl goes on to become, an instant classic and one of the best Super Bowls there is, then you win by a mile there, Buster. But again, we don't know yet, and I'm just going off of what the playoff was and how it got there. Anyways,
so, Sam, tell us about the little bit of the betting stuff for this preview.
Yeah, a little preview here.
The Chiefs opened at -1.5 point favorites. They've stayed there since it opened, so -1.5. Money line on the Chiefs. Eagles +105. Not a whole lot there. Over under opened at 49.5, and it has stayed at 49.5. So not much movement. I imagine those lines will probably shift as we get closer to the game. But I don't think they'd move a whole lot, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think
no big injuries, nothing that would really shift it in terms of whatever. I mean, I would think if something pops up in practice, right, they do have 2 weeks and they got to travel, someone twists an ankle or does something in practice, that could move it a little bit. Or, something random like Andy Reid's health or something like that. But yeah, it feels like it might not move much,
All right. Well, so here's the deal.
Last time the Eagles played the Chiefs, the Eagles won in Kansas City 21-17 in not this previous season, but last season, November 2023.
Oh, they haven't played each other since then.
I'll put this out there. We're going to make our picks next week, obviously. But I will go ahead and put in the fact that after I make my pick, the punishment reward is I will join my buddy Sam in solidarity, and I will shave this beautiful growth here, and I'll come in with a nice porn stash that you guys will enjoy.
This thing's coming off
Rusty
tonight,
Buster.
Dude. This thing's coming off
I'm not making the pick. I'm not making the pick, so no one's going to know. You're just going to have to wait. But the expectations is you're going to see this beautiful thing in all the score. And I'm going to oil it up, too. I'm going to make it shine.
Bear skin. Very nice. All right. Well, that's our quick little Super Bowl preview.
Your mustache is about to have its own Instagram account.
Obviously, we'll catch up on it. We'll catch up on it now if the line does change. Obviously, if there are new storylines that come in, which I'm sure there will be, what's Taylor Swift doing for the Super Bowl, all that. But we're going to shift back to a couple games that are left in college, some fun games. We got the Senior Bowl and the Shrine Bowl, the East West Shrine Bowl. Senior Bowl is coming up on Saturday. That'll be at 2:30. The East West Shrine Bowl is quicker. It's Thursday at 8 o'clock. Senior Bowl's kind of fun. Obviously, we've had a lot of NFL players come out of this game and help their draft status. A lot of guys who were in the playoffs, Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, a lot of starting quarterbacks, a lot of starting offensive players. But Buster's got a few more notes here on how it relates to South Carolina and our Cox.
Well, luckily for us, the Senior Bowl is a great place to see some of the guys that kind of helped carried us, that became household names, but they were the ones that really showcased their talents and got us to the record that we had this year, especially beating Clemson. And I'm talking about Demetrius Knight, who had the game-winning interception against Clemson. Kyle Kennard, obviously sack master 3000. He was amazing all season long. And then TJ Sanders, which he's one of my actual favorite players from the Gamecock D this past year. Doesn't get the same level of, stardom as, say, Kyle Kennard or Demetrius Knight. But when you have a guy with that size, that speed, that explosiveness, and that power commanding your defensive line and still being able to make sacks and still plugging holes for the run game, I see him moving up draft boards. He's been called a standout.
Oh, from this game? From this game?
Yeah, well, so the first couple of practices that they've had at the beginning of this week, he's been called a standout just from his sheer ability to be explosive. There are some clips floating around on X. I was going to try to link them. I got to find them again, so you guys keep a lookout for that. But there's a great one where it's a line drill, so O-line versus D-line, and he's going up against a guard and a tackle on the O-line, and he basically bull rushes the guy, and within half a second, he's already back to the tackling dummy that's supposed to represent the quarterback. And I mean, it was just the explosiveness off the ball, the speed in which he engaged, and the power to be able to bull rush this guy, to backpedal and get off balance. If he continues to showcase his talents like that this week and up into the game on Saturday, I say he moves up maybe a couple of rounds. Like I'm at the point where we got guys at South Carolina that rather than talking about going in the 5th or 7th round or undrafted or this and that, we are looking at names coming off the board within the first 3 rounds. And, Kyle's part of that storyline. I think Demetrius, if he has a strong showing, but TJ Sanders has the ability to be in that conversation as a high draft pick.
Mickey Manwari's actually also been flown his name out there. So TJ's he's got first round talent if he wants to. The only downside is that there are so many good defensive linemen in this year's draft. Like I was looking at the list and it's just littered with all the blue bloods of all the guys that have just physically imposing. And so TJ Sanders drops in the list what is he, Buster? 8th or 9th nationally ranked as a defensive lineman. Any other year he'd probably be a top 3 or top 4 defensive lineman in this year's draft.
That kind of fits with what we were saying earlier about wide receivers, though. Like for me, Xavier Worthy, great talent at wide receiver, ends up going to a good team like the Chiefs because it's so top heavy for wide receivers, right? With Neighbors going to New York, with Adunze going to Chicago, and with Harrison going to Arizona, it was like, okay, all these wide receivers are there, and then Worthy kind of got left out of that. But Worthy's on his way to the Super Bowl. All those other guys are on the bench, or playing golf. So it's not to say that TJ Sanders isn't great. It's just he's going to have to stand out, and maybe he uses this game. But back to Knight, just something that I've been reading about that was kind of fun was, basically that every year they play this game, there's sort of a player that scouts hold higher than the media. And this year, Jim Nagy was kind of talking about that being Demetrius Knight, that the players are holding him in high regard, that the scouts are holding him in high regard, that he may kind of lead the defense in this game and this defense in this game is pretty stacked. So that's pretty awesome for
Yeah.
him. But who knows? Maybe the familiarity with those guys playing together, maybe that helps TJ, and maybe TJ can help his draft stock too. You never know.
Demetrius
Yeah.
Knight just has like the perfect linebacker body. Like he is just like
Yeah.
physically perfect to play the middle linebacker position in a 4-3, and he's got this enough speed to play in a 3-4 if you want to put him on as a wide linebacker or a split linebacker. I think this year's Senior Bowl could be good for him.
Oh yeah.
We mentioned some other clips too. I don't know if you guys saw the clip on Tuesday's practice. Jalen Milroy, not looking great. Not looking great. He's got some small hands or something. What's going on there, Buster?
Small hands. I'm not going to say anything beyond that, but small
Just
hands.
leave it there.
Yeah. So,
small shoes.
The biggest thing is, I get the NFL likes to harp on measurables. They did it with Baker. They did it with Kyler Murray. They've done it with Drew Brees. They've done it with Tua. Whether like small hands equates to being a good quarterback, that's stupid. Yeah. But
height
you said,
is the one they usually go nuts over.
Well,
right?
and that's the thing
Kyler
is,
Murray.
I mean, Kyler Murray, Drew Brees. I mean, none of those guys had the Peyton Manning and Tom Brady heights. But the fact of the matter is that viral clip of him one-hopping a pass across the middle in a skeleton drill. So there's no defenders, there's no pressure, there's no rush or anything. It's just the receiver runs a route. You do your drop back, fundamental drop back, 3-step, 7-step, 5-step, whatever, and then you make the pass. And he one-hopped it to the receiver. I don't know if that is indicative of anything, if it's just a one-off thing, but it's not a good look when the media starts to pay attention to that. So, there's things like that. But, Sam, at the same time, I'm seeing guys my guy right now is Elijah Arroyo, the tight end out of Miami. A good prototypical tight end size, 6'4", 250. From what I've heard, excellent speed, excellent hands. And the fact is, he was a big-time recruit out of high school, but he was injured last year and the year before. So he didn't really get to showcase his talents until coming up. And this
game should be big for him.
So I think, seeing his measurables and seeing what he's been able to do, kind of like TJ Sanders, where this week of practice and leading into the game is what's going to really showcase that you've had this natural ability. I just got to put it on paper. I got to put it on camera. I got to put it on the field, and then see what happens in the.
Will he be
the draft.
on the? Like, do you think he'll be on the field with Milroe? Do you think Milroe will be
I'm not sure. I looked at the rosters and I totally forgot. Brain is full. So
it's just kind of funny because like we're talking about him and we think he can make an impact, but if it's Milroe throwing to him and he's one hopping passes, how much impact is going to have? So it's a little slippery slope with some of this. We don't know exactly how the game will go, and that's why we're not bringing in Sam to talk about lines and over-unders and betting on this game. It feels like it's prop bets only, and who knows what's going to happen, right? So, like, but you could get a prop bet here for Demetrius Knight. But
and that's the thing is the cool thing is it's not just the Senior Bowl. We still have the East-West Shrine Bowl where there's other Gamecocks and other big-time talent that are showcasing, their abilities there. So, we move with the Shrine Bowl's Thursday, 8:00. It's played in Arlington. Yeah. Crazy, love it, Arlington. I've been out there; it's nice. Several Gamecocks are in that one. O'Donnell Fortune, Tonka Hemingway, Kai Kroger, Rocket Sanders, Josh Simon, and then now Bam Martin Scott, who wanted to come back to school, but was waiting for that waiver. That the NCAA was granting an extra year for people that or for players that attended JUCO. It was kind of a weird sort of thing. But he decided instead of waiting for the NCAA to make a decision, which could take who knows how long, he's like, I'm going to go ahead and declare. I'm going to get into the Shrine Bowl. And I'm going to show out. I haven't gotten any massive updates from the Shrine Bowl about those guys. I know that Tonka has showed up. Rocket has shown crazy levels of explosiveness from the little bit that I've gotten. So, but we knew that about Rocket. We knew of his strength and his power and his explosiveness. So that's nothing to, nothing new for us guys there. You guys have anything on the Shrine Bowl?
Well, I did have a question a little bit
Okay.
because I haven't always watched the Shrine Bowl. I know the Senior Bowl. I know what's at stake there. I know what's going on there. But with East West, I mean, when you think about East West and the Shrine Bowl, is it basically like SEC and ACC in the East versus like Big Ten, Big 12? What was the Pac-12 in the West? Is that kind of the way they break it? Or like, where's the line for
I,
East West for them?
I will not draw a conclusion on that, considering the conference realignments this year.
Yeah, that's what
Who
I'm
knows
saying. I
what
mean,
is
to me,
east
the
and west
West
in the
is
United
Pac-12, and that
States?
doesn't
Like,
exist.
I feel like
yeah, exactly.
the natural line is the Mississippi River, right? Like
Yeah.
what else would we use other than other than Mississippi River, this giant river in the middle of the country? I feel like that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Now
don't
you're
know
gonna
if
make
that's
me look
accurate.
at
I don't know if
geography
this
and
is accurate.
In the South, yeah, in the South, where does the Mississippi go? And how
Also,
does,
the
you know,
last
but
map I saw flowed into the Gulf of Mexico as opposed to the Gulf of America. So I don't know. I don't know
Yeah,
what I know
exactly.
anymore. I don't know anything anymore.
So,
that's good.
yeah, no, I love the fact that, and I'm going to try to, um, I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch the full games, but I'm definitely going to tune in and get highlights and get some information, because I think people don't realize how important the Shrine Bowl and Senior Bowl is to these
Yeah,
kinds of
scouts are
players
watching.
that are
Yeah.
coming up. Yeah. Like, for instance, one of my favorite guys is Kyle McCord, the Syracuse QB that came out of Ohio State
Yeah.
from previous years.
Beat Miami.
He had an ACC record of 4,700 some odd yards passing. Like, this guy has a strong arm. He's very accurate. And this is the chance. If he wasn't able to prove it in the regular season for whatever case, whether it's being on Syracuse as a team
Syracuse was up
or
and
any
down,
other
yeah.
issues, the fact is this gives these bowls give these guys a chance to say, actually, I'm a pretty damn good QB. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what Kyle McCord does, because I was kind of a fan of him all season long, because I loved what his arm could do. And I think if he was in, a better situation, and again, I'm not saying Syracuse was completely awful, but the idea is, like, if you were in the SEC, you would have, like, compared to, say, a Jackson Dart at Ole Miss, if Kyle McCord had that same kind of ability to be observed, then who knows where
Well, I would also
his
say,
draft status would have been.
if the point is to improve your draft status, right? For a QB, that's one of the biggest things you could possibly do. And these two guys that we mentioned, Jalen Milroe in the Senior Bowl and Kyle McCord in this one, they're looking to do that because even if you're not a top tier guy, even if you're not getting drafted top of the heap like some other guys have, JJ McCarthy, Jaden Daniels, whatever, you're still getting on a roster and you're still going to see the field at some point. I mean, almost every backup on every NFL team saw the field at some point during this year, and some of those guys flashed. I was even impressed at Philly. Philly got down past Pickett to the other guy, and he was okay. And I was like, there are quarterbacks there. A lot of NFL fans are like, where are all the quarterbacks? We need more quarterbacks, right? There's some teams at the bottom who just always need a quarterback. Feels like the Browns need a quarterback every single year.
But it's also
But the truth is, sorry, go ahead, Sam.
I was just gonna say, like, that, but to that point, it's also like the hardest position in like, all of
Oh,
sports,
yeah.
right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
turnover's
Oh,
gonna be
100%,
high.
yeah. But I think for someone like McCord, especially playing in a dome in Syracuse, right?
Yeah.
He's going to be able to have this game. He's going to be able to go to the combine in Indianapolis in that dome and put up his measurables. He can really improve things a lot. He can get up there so a team would look at him at rounds 4, 5, 6, 7, right? I mean, as a Pats fan, that's something I know. We got Tom Brady in the 7th round. Do not cry if you get drafted in the 6th or 7th round. You're still on a roster. You can still earn a spot. We've seen QBs from South Carolina get in that spot and get on teams and be able to play games, and that's cool. Granted, things were tough this year for Spencer Rattler on New Orleans, but he showed his cannon and he made some plays, and I think he sticks. If he doesn't stick on that roster,
didn't he break
he
a
will
record
be on someone's roster.
I think he broke a record this year too.
I mean, he threw some bombs, but he didn't have anybody, right? Chris Olave got knocked out. There were no wide receivers on.
Well, they sat Kamara for like half of his games too. Because
Yeah.
Kamara was
So I mean, was there one that was hard? Yeah, I think there was one start by Spencer where they didn't score any points at all.
So Spencer, this is a record. So according to this, Peyton Manning held the mark or Archie Manning held the mark for New Orleans from 1971 until this season, when he threw for just under 1,200 yards in 10 starts. In 7 games this season with 6 starts, Spencer Rattler broke that record when he passed for 1,300 yards. So he beat out.
That's NFL royalty, Archie.
Yeah. So you beating out the Manning king, Arch Manning, like as
and I think that's a great
starter.
measure too, right? Because Archie Manning was on some horrible teams on the Saints, right?
Yeah.
Bags over the head type
Very
stuff.
bad teams for
well,
several
won
seasons.
some of the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yards is a great one to look at because the rest of it is tough. You don't have a line, you don't have and I think I saw enough out of him that he could be on a roster somewhere. I think second or third somewhere, and backups are needed. Obviously, some teams have a horrible backup situation. So, but that being said, I think that's pretty good for the bowl games. We'll see how those turn out. We'll fact check ourselves and recap things for next week when we come back. We'll talk more about that. But I think we're gonna sashay over to the hardwood now, and we'll get back to some South Carolina talk. And these Lady Gamecocks and our little midseason review here and grades for the Gamecocks. As of now, 20-1 with that one loss to
UCLA.
UCLA, yes.
Number one,
USC, but
UCLA.
yeah, they were number one. Yeah, at that time. Yep.
Still are.
First in the SEC, number 2 in the rankings. Some big wins lately over LSU and Tennessee. Even with Ashley Watkins out for the year. So what have you guys been seeing lately? The sky's the limits with this team, right? I mean, they've been through a meat of their schedule already in terms of higher ranked teams. Now they just got to keep it going, right?
Dude, Sam, tell us about some Joyce Edwards, the freshman phenom. Freshman phenom, Joyce.
I mean, this is kind of this. So she's the Joyce Edwards, SEC co-freshman of the week recently. She's led the team. Yeah, Camden SC. Thank you for that right there. So she's out of Camden. She's led the team in points 9 times this season. She's averaging 12, about 12.5 per game. Shooting 56 from the field. We talked about this briefly around the holiday time about how Ashlyn Watkins was going to be out for the year with that devastating injury. We hope she gets better. And you just mentioned the meat of the schedule, right? So they just went over Alabama, Oklahoma, LSU, and Tennessee. Some pretty good. I think all those teams are ranked with the exception of I don't know if LSU is anymore, but no, they definitely. I don't know if Tennessee is anymore, but right. I'm pretty sure they're all ranked at the time they played. And we were worried because one of the things that Dawn Staley has done throughout her career is just had a great defensive presence on the team and coaching with defense. So they were only averaging 6 blocks per game. That's the lowest since 2016, 2017 by the time Ashlyn Watkins went out. So you're worried like, hey, is the defensive prowess going to be there? They not only are they averaging over like 8 blocks per game, they had 11 against Tennessee recently. They're smoking it behind the arc. I think they're like averaging about 18.7 shots per game behind the arc, which would be the most ever in the Dawn Staley era. They're scoring in the paint, 42 points per game in the paint, 6th in the nation. The blueprint's there. It's just a bunch of different players that come in. I mean, there's like 9 players that are averaging 17 minutes per game. It's young players coming in. Young players. Tina's shooting it from the outside. She's a great outside presence to get the shot. So is Tessa. I mean, this team's looking good, even with that Ashlyn Watkins injury, Buster.
Oh yeah, I mean the thing is like you said, the bread and butter of a Dawn Staley basketball team is that inside presence. It goes back to Asia Wilson, who is from my hometown. Shout out Hopkins, South Carolina. And after Asia was Aaliyah Boston. And after Aaliyah Boston was Camila Cardoso. Like Dawn,
we got statues for some of those.
Exactly. Like the fact that Dawn consistently builds a powerhouse team that if one side is, and I wouldn't call it lacking, but if one side is not seen as the ultimate strength, let's say like the idea with Ashlyn Watkins being out, that hard-nosed defense and that aggressiveness, and then the ability to drive to the hole, the inside-out game type of deal. If Ashlyn Watkins is not there, who else steps up? Sanaya Fagan steps up. Joyce Edwards steps up. Chloe Kitts steps up. So you never miss a beat, and Dawn preaches that to this team that every single one of those players knows that they could be as dominant as they want to be if they apply themselves. And then, so now we have, like you said, Joyce Edwards showing up. Chloe Kitts is still like a consistent gamer. Rebound from the elbow, she can still play on the inside. Sanaya Fagans is really showing up. And Sanaya, I remember hearing a story that whether it was last year or the year before, Sanaya was behind a couple of people, obviously legit starters that are now, lottery
Yeah.
picks for the
In the
WNBA.
WNBA.
And Dawn came up to her and her mother and said, "Hey, I love your talent and I love your ability, but like we have so much on this team. I don't know if you're going to get play time. If you want to transfer to where you are a day one starter, you're more than welcome to." And Sanaya and her mother both said, "Nah, this is the place we need to be. We're just going to keep working until we get that chance." And boom, look at us now. Like Sanaya is one of the main pieces on defending that middle, and that's still without the fact that Tahina Pau and Tessa are on the outside just draining threes. Which, by the way, those two are my favorite players. I love them.
Yeah, I like
cheer them on.
Yeah. And Malaysia, she's got good control of that. She's got good control of the offense too. When she brings it up out of the court, like she's running that offense efficiently with set plays or in the fast break as well. So you got to shout out to her guard skills as well.
Oh yeah, you can name any person on that roster, and you can talk about how impactful they are to that game.
I like that you said that. Like, one of the things I was thinking, Buster, is it just seems like every single player has found their niche and what their role is and what they're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like they all play it, and there's no griping, and Dawn Staley, to your point,
she just
adapts to whatever her team is, whatever the pros and cons are, she'll adapt.
Yeah,
within her.
And on top of that, having fun doing it, right? She's going to men's games, wiling out, dancing, wearing the big fat heads. This team's starting fast in games, right? Sometimes you're top heavy, you got a lot of great players, not getting up for a game that is an unranked opponent and coming up in the second half. They get leads, and sometimes they get leads early, and they keep that lead and they work that lead and they wait for the streaks, like everyone's going to go on a run in almost any basketball game, and that's when you're tested, right?
Well,
when you're tired and you're getting down to things.
Yeah,
they just beat 5 ranked teams in a row in the SEC.
I know, and didn't even
3 or 4.
That's the best part about it is, like, if they had a big lead, if they had a big one with Tennessee, and then Tennessee started making a comeback towards the end of the game, and yet they still maintained. You look at LSU. LSU was up in the first half for a little bit there. Did they panic? No. Did they get a little chaotic? No. They stayed tried and true to their chemistry, to their formula, and boom, came out on top. And
that Oklahoma win was really impressive too. I mean, they just basically came out like a well-oiled machine, like no one's going to beat them, so they can win any type of way. You go down a little bit, you let them hang a little bit. I'm starting. Maybe that we talked about maybe that UCLA loss was a good thing. Kind of wake them up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm starting to think it was.
Yeah.
You got.
I can't wait to see them again.
Nothing's gonna be handed to you like it has been the last 4 or 5 seasons.
I mean, in all honesty, outside of, and obviously we never know what happens in March Madness, but for the most part, if this is any indication from the previous years when LSU and Iowa with Caitlin Clark were on the top, if the idea is that if everything holds true, there is a chance for that rematch against UCLA at some point in the brackets. And again, that's way down the road. We're not worried about that.
Talking about East-West.
So we're not worried about that yet. We got Auburn this coming up weekend. So any listener that is planning to attend the game or wants to attend the game or is in position to attend the game, they are retiring Asia Wilson's jersey. Asia Wilson, Hopkins, South Carolina, 4-time All-American, 3-time SEC Player of the Year, and 3-time WNBA MVP.
Reigning MVP.
And like Buster said, if you are going, let us know about it. Let us know, where you're at and what you're looking for in that game. And if we didn't cover anything for these Lady Gamecocks, let us know. Obviously, we'll be talking about them a lot this year, almost every week, probably. Getting into March Madness eventually. But that's going to wrap that up for now. Getting us teed up for the Auburn game and Aja Wilson getting retired, which is awesome, along with a lot of other names that we mentioned. Like I said, Aaliyah Boston with that statue. Don's got a statue up the street now. But really fun with this team. I think the last button I want to put on it is, Buster, you mentioned, we were mentioning some of these rookies, and it just feels to me, if a rookie can ascend with an injury and be leading the team in points like is happening, that feels like a huge feather in the cap for recruiting, right? There are ladies watching this right
Yeah.
now saying, wow, I can get on this team for next year and I could play. I could play my way onto this team. I could make my way on this team. So I feel like from a recruiting standpoint, I'm already thinking about next year and the year after and how many Don can put together. And that's pretty awesome for South Carolina.
Yeah.
All right, Carolina fans. So that'll take us into our third down territory segment. We can get back to that this week because we got Buster back. This is where we get into 3 downs, where we shout the good and call out the bad. I'll take it. I guess I'll take the rock on first down. This one's fun, and we were talking a lot of basketball. South Carolina suspends their DJ after a controversial song choice during the LSU game. This is weird. This is obviously going to set us back, probably a sack or maybe a fumble for loss. And yeah, if you do go to the Auburn game this weekend, you won't get to see the DJ. And my understanding of it, and Buster will elucidate some of this, but is that basically a certain song was associated with a player from a while ago, and in a weird choice, the DJ decided to play that song to basically sort of haze and call out an LSU player during the game, correct?
So it goes like this. If you guys recall last year when we played LSU, there was some chippiness on the court.
Just
There
a
was
little bit.
chippiness that came from the stands. The LSU player, Flauj, I'm going to say Flauj. I think that's how you pronounce it. I apologize if I mispronounce it.
So many apologies.
Yeah. But if you recall last year during a very chippy part of the game, her brother actually tried to come out of the stands and fight. Yeah. So there was, I think there's not beef there probably between her and our players. Obviously, everything gets settled. These players, they talk to each other, probably text messaging and this and that. Anyways, there was probably a little bit of chippiness there. And so this past week, after we beat LSU, our DJ decided to play a song by Camouflage. Camouflage is Flauj's late father. He passed away a while ago.
Yeah, like 20 years ago.
I want to say that, it was right around when she was born or just before she was born. Either way, she decided to play this song, and from the sound of it, no pun intended, the DJ played the song intentionally as a kind of a way to, add a little bit of fuel to the fire, add some extra kindling on top of this, rivalry.
This fiery rivalry, yeah.
Exactly. So, I think whether or not you agree or disagree, the idea is that certain things you just don't do. And I think our women's team and Dawn Staley and leadership decided it was best to suspend her.
Yeah, I mean, you play that song with any other opponent, with any other thing, it doesn't really matter, right? But it's a pointed statement when you do it like this. And it sounds like the DJ didn't really mean to. They play that song anyway, and stuff like that. And so that's a shame, it's a shame because it's just like the foresight wasn't there, and you hate to hear this. But it happens, and you apologize, you take the suspension, you just don't do it again, and you just don't ban it. And I think it's a good move.
Kim Mulkey's always been a sore loser, man.
Yeah, no, I'm not a fan of Kim Mulkey and some of her antics. I
definitely
agree
not.
with you, Sammy.
Definitely
she is not a nice loser. She is definitely a sore loser. I think she can be cheap, and
all the more reason you had to take this action if you're South Carolina.
Yeah,
sure.
But this action is enough. It was a bad. I would say this is a false start. We lost 5 yards. No big deal. It's second and long.
False start.
Right, so we're at 2nd and 15. So I'm going to take second down. So for a 2nd and 15, my play call is this. I'm going with the Jaden Daniels Award for Best Rookie QB Performance in the NFL Playoff. And that goes to Jaden Daniels because he was the rookie quarterback that took his wildcard team all the way to the NFC Championship. Shout out to this guy. On the season, 70% completion percentage, over 3,500 yards passing, and a season-long passer rating of over 100. That gets me to 3rd and 1. That's a 14-yard gain. So on 3rd and 1, we're going to go half of a football, all right? Half of football. We're at 3rd and inches. Sam, can we convert?
Oh, half a yard, that's it? Half a football? Hell yeah. You know what we're gonna go? We're gonna go with the tush push that was so put on great display by not the Eagles, but Josh Allen and the Bills, Sean McDermott and Josh Allen. It's fourth down. It's fourth and what? Well, this was on
Third.
Sunday at least. It
Yeah,
was
we're
fourth
at
and
third. He's
inches
at fourth.
at the
Yeah.
beginning of the fourth quarter, and you couldn't get the 1 yard. So the third
No.
down tush push play of the week goes to Josh Allen and Sean McDermott, just not necessarily getting creative.
All right, so it seems like
Do we
based
get it?
on that play, we did not get it. We did not convert. It's fourth down. We're going to have to punt. So we're going to punt to next week's episode. Mike, tell us what's coming up.
You got to punt sometimes. You got to do
Yeah.
that. Well, football fans, that will do it for this week. We hope you enjoyed having the
off.
yeah, you
Hair
can take
looks
it off.
good.
Having this trio of Stooges back, talking sports. We're having a fun time. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe on YouTube if you like what you're seeing. Anything that we said, please let us know, the good, the bad. Do your own 3-down territory, whether it's Sam's mustache, Buster's punting mustache, my take on NFL versus college, or anything in between. We really appreciate it, and we're always looking for ways to give you guys what you want to hear us talking about. So do feel like subscribing if you like what you see here. Next week we will recap some of the stuff we talked about: Senior Bowl, Shrine Bowl. We'll make our Super Bowl picks. We'll definitely pump that up for the biggest bowl there is. We'll get into winter workouts and new big men on campus for the Gamecocks and across college football. And then signing day is coming. And further down the line, we'll talk about South Carolina schedule and March Madness and all kinds of fun stuff. So please stay tuned and let us know. And then that will take us back to another great episode of Alumni
Game!
Cox!
Game!
Cox!
Game!
Cox!
Cox.